and how to pursue it, and also the litigation part in particular, like what is litigation and what is it and what revolves around it. Over to you, sir.
Hi, good afternoon. First of all, a big thank you. Am I audible to everybody?
Yes, sir, you can continue.
Yeah, hi. So, good afternoon, and thank you so much. A big thank you to all the organizers for allowing me and giving me this esteemed opportunity to be a part of a wonderful session wherein we'll be seeing all young, budding graduates and to be graduates uh, in line to pursue this wonderful field. And there's one thing I wish to say before I begin my session that if you all are confused at the moment and at this juncture, then it's very well legitimate to be confused because even we all were when we were in class 12th and we were preparing ourselves for the board exam. Now, today the session is on a subject, on a field that is very, very close to my heart. And I must confess that I've been extremely passionate, enthusiastic about it ever since the very beginning when I was in class 11th and I opted for humanities. Now, when you talk about law as a discipline or as a field or as a subject, what is the first thing or what is the first thought that comes to your mind when I say the word law or when I say what law is about? So, law is basically a type or a kind of a legal sciences that revolves around certain rights and certain duties. Now, you all at some point must have studied what fundamental rights are that are fundamental under Part 3 of the Constitution of India. Now, these are certain inherent rights that we've got, which can be fundamental in nature that are guaranteed by the Constitution of India, and there are certain legal rights that are protected to us and given to us by the Constitution. Similarly, there are certain duties that are enshrined under the Constitution that are called fundamental duties as well. So, what are these rights and how do we exercise those rights? So, as a lawyer in the field or in a profession, you are supposed to defend your client's rights. And when these rights gets violated, it is the court of law where you go and you invoke the appropriate jurisdiction or the appropriate forum that you're required to. Now, how to decide this subject? How do you decide how to pursue it, when to pursue it, or should you go for it, or should you not go for it? Now, there are certain exercises that you need to undertake, and this is the method that I've used when I used to be in school. It is called the elimination method. So you need to understand one thing that if you're argumentative or if you're good at debating, then this can only be a plus factor that you've got. Law is certainly more than that. So you need to think beyond the horizon and beyond the contemporary school of thought that you've got. That if you're good at debating or if you're good at arguments, then law is the field for you. Now, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? Is it rights? Is it law as a subject? Is it law as a profession? Well, you all will be confused right now. So, to clarify this further, please understand that there is certain intuitive nature that we all have got. We like to think about certain things and then we go deeper and dig deeper. So, it is the spirit of inquiry that is very important if you at all you want to or wish to pursue the field of law. If you're inquisitive as an individual, if you want to read a lot, because certainly in this profession you'll be required to read for hours and hours. You need to burn the midnight oil, you need to work really very hard. Nothing comes to you in a platter when you talk about the field of law. Now, how do you decide whether you should go for it immediately after graduation or you should do it after your immediately after your schooling, that is class 12th, when you pass out of school, or you should do it after your graduation, which is 3 years course. So there are two courses that are available. One is the 5 years course and the other is the 3 years course. 5 years course is the integrated program that we have got that you can pursue immediately after school when you clear your class 12th examination. Now, the second program is the 3 years course that you pursue after you're done with your graduation. Now, graduation can be in any field. It could be a BA in literature or in journalism. It could be across the stream and across the spectrum. Now, how do you decide which course to opt for? So, if you're 100% sure of the fact that you wish to pursue it, then 5 years program is the most extensive, it's the most well thought out and intensive program that you've got. And then then there are certain entrance exam that you have to sit for, which are common law entrance tests, and there are certain deemed universities that conduct their own examinations. You need to prepare for them. That happens immediately after your board exams. So you need to start preparing for it what my advice would be that do it immediately when you enroll yourself in class 12th, because of an year of extensive and hard practice and preparation could yield amazing and wonderful fruits for you, because now the competition each year is getting very tough, and everybody is battling to get seal a spot in the top and leading national law schools. So the first thing that you need to understand is you need to have that inquisitiveness, you need to have that spirit of inquiry, you need to the problem solving techniques that you've got in this field, you need to apply your head, and you need to understand that if there is a situation, if there is a problem, then how do you find a solution to that? So it's as simple as that, that you start and you start thinking about whether you should pursue this wonderful field or not. The other being inquisitiveness. After inquisitiveness has to be knowledge. So the deeper you go, the better it is for you. And there's a lot that you need to cover, because there are very different fields that are there in the field of law. It could be constitutional law, it could be environmental law. There are different fields as well. So if you're not sure about law as a profession or as a field, then you can always go for a basic graduation course, which could be a BCom or a BA, or enroll yourself in an honors graduation, which could be in philosophy honors or English, and subsequently you can go for the 3 years course. Now, if I talk about law as a profession, which is what I'm doing, it is called litigation. Now, what is the first thing that comes to your mind when I use the word litigation? What exactly is litigation? What is court practice? So, when you talk about litigation, the real charm of law lies in the courts, because litigation is a profession of persuasion. Litigation is a profession where you present your arguments before a court of law, and particularly a judge who's been appointed, and that is where you submit your arguments. There is a legal query that is framed. The opposite party gets an opportunity to respond to these allegations or comments or petitions that you've moved, and subsequently evidence is recorded in the form of witnesses or affidavits, and subsequently there is a verdict that is arrived at by the honorable court of law. So litigation is about court practice. Litigation is about where lawyers are defending rights, where lawyers are the guardians and the custodians of the honorable constitution. Lawyers are those responsible officers of court that are bringing a dispute that is intriguing the society or that is creating problems for it to the court of law, because when the administrative machinery or the state machinery fails, that is when the court intervenes and forms and sets aside those policies or those laws that go against the very spirit of the Constitution of India. So litigation is what I've been doing, and been doing it. I've finished 7 years so far. And when you talk about my journey in this field, I started my practice. I pursued my law from Government Law College, Bombay, and immediately after that, I started working in Delhi, and I was working for a litigation-based firm. Uh, Subsequent to that, I pursued a course on public international law from the Hague Academy of International Law, which is housed at the International Court of Justice, where I did and pursued certification on public international law from the International Court of Justice. Subsequent to that, I moved back and came back to Jaipur, and I started practicing before the trial courts. Now, what are trial courts? Trial courts are courts of original jurisdiction. So, when you talk about the hierarchy of courts, you have the lower courts, that are the trial courts, then you have the higher court, and then you have the Honorable Supreme Court of India. Now, one pertinent thing to note here is that we just have one Supreme Court in the entire country, and Supreme Court is the last and the final court of appeal. Beyond Supreme Court, there is no other court, and Supreme Court is the last court where a dispute is settled or a law is the position of law is settled. So I worked in the trial courts, and I worked there for 2 years, where I learned how to draft and do civil work, and I did a lot of criminal work. I did a lot of medical negligence work. I closely worked with hospitals, defending them in medical negligence cases. Then I did a lot of bails. I did civil work and a lot of consumer work. So you know what consumer complaints are. So to fall under the ambit of Consumer Protection Act, you need to be one, a consumer. Two, you're not supposed to discharge any commercial service, because commercial services don't fall under the purview of the Consumer Protection Act. And these are there are certain disputes that are involved, which are a deficiency in services, or if there is any person who's authorized to do a particular service or a duty and he fails to do that. So where do you go? You approach the consumer courts. So, and subsequently I moved to High Court, where I started practicing and assisting my father. and I also have my independent practice, and I've been currently doing that now. So when you ask me what exactly is law about, I can say that what I did in my personal journey was that I opted for humanities. Now, why I? So there are three streams that are available in class 11th. You have to be fortunate to get those opportunities to choose between one, because not many schools in Jaipur have the luxury of offering these three courses. So one is humanities, then you have commerce, and then you have science. So the reason why I opted for humanities was because somewhere political science is connected to legal science. Political science is about history, is about modern and contemporary immaculation of the events that have taken place, how the Constitution of India came into the picture, how was the Constitution enacted, why do we celebrate, and simple things and small events such as why do we celebrate the Republic Day, what are fundamental rights, what are fundamental duties, what are directive principles of state policy. So it is humanities as a stream that gave me this brilliant introduction and to what law is about. So my foundation and basics were very clear when I was pursuing my class 11th, and when I had opted for humanities. That is where I studied all of this in detail. So the foundation was extremely strong. Now you don't have to worry if you are in the stream of sciences or commerce, because this is something that you will be, you get this opportunity to study all over again when you enroll yourself in a law school. So you don't have to worry at all. Now, how to prepare for a law entrance is something that there are there are a lot of tutorials that are available online. There are a lot of courses that people offer. Then there are a lot of institutions that are offering services in the form of tuitions to prepare yourself for the common law entrance exam, which is the most important examination that you've got, which is very not just very tough but also very competitive. So you need to understand that it's not just about English, it's not just about your general knowledge when you talk about preparation for a common law entrance. It's also about logical reasoning and mathematics where you really need to work on. And this is somewhere where I faulted, because I didn't take mathematics that seriously. I thought that it's about general knowledge or it's about political science and I'm good at it, so I'll be able to crack all the good law schools that you've got in CLAT. And that is where I lost 20 marks flat. And so that is something that you really need to strategize, especially when you're in class 12th and you have your board exams coming up. You need to understand that you need to strategize your courses and your study, and time management there plays a very pivotal and vital role. Time management is extremely important. You need to understand that it's not just one field that is important. If it's a 200 mark paper, then mathematics will carry as much marks or as many marks as probably English or probably logical reasoning or other types of fields. So you need to strategize and understand that in an entrance you are required to know a lot of things and not just one thing in toto, which is in totality. And if you are still not sure about it, what I would suggest is you can always go for, you need to identify what you are passionate about. What is it that you can do probably at 3 in the morning and still not get stressed about it? So I asked these questions when I was in class 11th, that what streams should I opt for? What field should I be in? And then the answer that I got was that if I read history, if I read a historical moment that has taken place or an historical event, let's say the independence struggle or the independence movement or the revolt of 1857, then it wasn't stress for me at all. It was absolutely effortless and it didn't feel hard work at all. So you need to ask these questions to yourself. What is that one subject? So you need to start with a subject. Then you need to so it's like a stepping stone. First you need to understand which subjects you're good at, and number two, most importantly, which subjects you are passionate about. So, so the hard work won't be hard work for you. It will be an effortless exercise. It will be a very smooth journey. So first ask yourself which subjects are you extremely passionate and enthusiastic about, that don't give you the pain of going through these odd hours of studies. And number two, once you know that, okay, fine, this is the subject, political science, obviously, so that is where your career is. Because believe me, when I say this, when you pursue a field or a subject and you make a career out of it, then the amount of satisfaction that you get, that's probably and understandably the best feeling in the world. So you need to understand and identify which areas are you passionate about, what you can do effortlessly, And for some people, there's a myth that if you're good at debates and if you're good at extempore competitions, then law is the field for you. You're not here to tutor someone. You're not here to lecture somebody. You're here to defend and be a custodian of rights of thousands of people around you. There'll be legal notices that will be shot from all corners across. There'll be wills that you'll have to draft. So, as a lawyer, you need to be prepared for anything and everything. It could be a complaint before a consumer forum. It could be a SLP before Supreme Court of India. It could be drafting of legal notices. It could be representing the opposite side at times. So it's not just the complainant that you're representing. It's also the defendant that you may have to be represent at some point in your life. So you need to first understand which subjects you're good at, and if at all there is a bit of inquisitiveness to know and understand what this field is, what law is about, what your rights are, how they are discharged in society, how they are violated by the state machinery, and how you can defend them. If there is this curiosity to know and understand, then I think this there is no other field better than the field of law. Now, the advantage that you have is that you can even pursue law after graduation, which I pointed out initially at the beginning of my session. So if you're still unsure about it, if you really want to explore and identify what you're good at and what you are studying, you enjoy the most. So you can always specialize in that. And there are people, there have been retired commissioners of income tax, there have been retired bureaucrats, there have been uh, retired people that I've seen pursuing law. Because two things you need to understand, that as per the BCI legal rules, now there used to be an upper age limit for the purposes of enrolling oneself for the 5 years course or a 3 years course. Now currently the matter is sub judice, and the petitions are still pending. But as far as practicing in the field of law is concerned, there is no age bar. So you can do it very well later on in your life. Once you know that, fine, this is the field for me, this is it. So you need to read a lot about it. You need to understand. You need to visit courts for that. You need to see how a court functions. Because academically speaking, when you sit down and study something, and then when you go to a court and see its application happening, there could be a hell lot of difference. So first identify what you're good at, what you're passionate about, and then subsequently take these few steps in that direction, and then you'll see a wonderful career that you've built. Now coming back to what litigation, how much time have I got, Sanya? Am I running out of time?
Sir, yeah, I'll be taking time, and I'll be introducing our next guest,
Sure.
and we'll be taking questions again with you, sir. Till that time, let me just introduce our next speaker. He's Sahil Verma. He's an international lawyer. Mr. Sahil Verma is an alumnus of University College London. Mr. Sahil, sir, is an international lawyer specializing in business law, investment law, international law, and dispute resolution. Having worked with startups for over 10 years, Mr. Sahil has gained tremendous experience in fintech, blockchain, and asset tokenization. He is fully qualified Commonwealth lawyer, an associate of Chartered Institute of Arbitrators London, a registered legal practitioner with DIFC Courts Dubai, and an arbitrator with CRCICA Egypt. We humbly welcome you, Mr. Sahil, sir. And over to you, sir. Just share your thoughts and your expertise with the students.
Thank you so much, Sanya, for the kind introduction. And Jay has already set up the platform on fire, so I'm not sure how much justice I'll be able to do. But yes, all these fancy titles and degrees, they do sound fancy, but reality is they are not. Nevertheless, Jay has already taken care of litigation and other parts. So for the brevity of time, and in order to ensure that the attendees and participants they get the maximum out of this panel, I'll focus on corporate. So by background, I'm a first generation lawyer. I belong to a very small town. I'm not even sure whether most people know about it or not. I was actually the first student from Haryana in NLU Jodhpur. So I studied at NLU. I mean, I was kind of an average student. I was never considered, in elite ones. And secondly, of course, I never wanted to be as well. Well, that's an excuse, to hide why I didn't study. But yeah, I was an average student. Then, fortunately, I got placement through my college with Zydus Cadila in Ahmedabad. I worked there for around 1 year, and there I was working in their corporate department. I handled a couple of litigations, but my major scope of work dealt with agreements, their drafting, reviewing, negotiating. And the best thing was that I was given a free hand by my seniors, which was a rare opportunity. Then I went to London to pursue my master's, and post that I moved to Sharjah, then I moved to Dubai. I spent some time in Singapore, I spent some time in South Africa as well, and then I finally made a move back to India in 2014 when BJP came into power, hoping that अच्छे दिन आएंगे. So then I launched my boutique practice, and how I did that, I'll first focus on this aspect because some of you would be first generation lawyers and probably not having much contacts or not much networking, so in the same situation as I was. So what I did was, when I became an employee anywhere, I tried to give my best there, even though I was not the best, but still I tried to give my best. And I developed relations, not just with the legal department, but with the other departments of the corporation. I identified that who all are going to be the key decision makers. Let's say, for example, when it comes to India, legal department usually comes under the purview of finance department. So CFO exercises more authority on legal matters than the legal head himself. So I try to develop these kind of key relations with key management, etc. And when I launched my firm with just the brand name, nothing else. I had only one client at that time, and for the first 1.5 to 2 years I had only one client. And then I gradually started getting more clients through, of course, that client. And then I started reaching out to the organizations where I had worked as in-house counsel in order to check that whether they would be interested. Of course, some of them hated me for obvious reasons, so they didn't provide any work. So how I overcome that was, I'm a person who likes to see opportunity in everything. So I thought, okay, well, they are not interested. But since I was negotiating agreements on their behalf, so I had developed relations with the counterparties as well. I started reaching out to those counterparties and then ended up building my own practice. And it is also very interesting that I used to be a commercial lawyer, then I became a maritime and shipping lawyer, then I ended up becoming a startup, venture capital, and private equity lawyer, and these days I'm a blockchain and fintech lawyer. So sometimes I feel it kind of funny when some budding law student asks me, okay, sir, I want to specialize in criminal law, or this law, that law. Then I tell them I actually specialized in WTO, and I've never ever handled a single matter pertaining to WTO in my whole career until now. And I wanted to be in international trade law. Yes, I'm handling international trade transactions and all that stuff, but not that kind of private law of international trade in which I specialized. So your specialization may change even after you have graduated as a lawyer, even after, even 2 3 years down the line, because you have to keep yourself abreast with the developments which are happening. And I'm talking this thing from the perspective of a commercial or corporate lawyer. And with this keynote, I'll now start with the nature of practice of corporate and commercial law. Litigation part has been taken care very well by Jay. So when it comes to corporate and commercial, you are actually a lawyer who is also wearing a business hat. I'll give you an example. If I'm just reviewing an agreement, let's say a sale and purchase of goods agreement, from perspective of a pure lawyer, I'll probably change everything in it, each and every sentence. It needs to be structured very carefully, proper legal language should be there, clauses flow should be there, and all that stuff. So at the end, that agreement would look something new, something entirely different altogether. But if I'm putting my commercial or corporate hat on, and I'm also putting my legal hat on, then I'll make only those changes which would be significant. And how they are going to help me is, firstly, clients would be happy that I'm being very practical because they would be having very less time in negotiating. And even when it comes to negotiation, only key pointers would be negotiated. Secondly, of course, it increases the time span. Thirdly, you focus only on core areas because at the end of the day, clients will always want to focus on the core areas, and they are not concerned about the term of confidentiality being 2 years or 3 years in most of the transactions. Of course, these factors are transaction dependent as well. So when it comes to corporate and commercial law, agreements are our bread and butter or bread and jam if you like sweet things. So we start with agreement. So what is an agreement? Everyone knows. Agreements can be verbal, agreements can be written. Of course, in commercial dealings, they are usually written so that you may not end up, engaging lawyers to litigate disputes under that one. Or if you are engaging lawyers to litigate, at least you are providing your lawyer enough information to protect your rights. So agreements is one of those things. And in each and every commercial transaction, agreement is a paramount role. For instance, when you order something from Amazon or Flipkart, you know how many agreements you are actually signing. First agreement, terms and conditions of the platform, that is Flipkart or Amazon. Second, privacy policy of Amazon. Third, additional terms and conditions which apply to the sale of that particular product. Fourth, code of conduct. These four you are signing once when you create an account with Amazon or when you place an order through Amazon. So you can easily imagine, for instance, you install WhatsApp. By installing WhatsApp, you are actually agreeing into an agreement to comply with their terms and conditions. They say that if you are not happy with it, don't use it. And recently there was furor about the privacy policy changes in WhatsApp. So all those things, so agreements, they form an integral part. You buy software, you buy hardware, you buy even books, everything is an agreement. Of course, not all the agreements are formalized, or not all the agreements are in formal terms. So that is one thing. Besides agreements, then you come to transaction structuring. GCEC, I'm sure there are a lot of budding entrepreneurs and startups there. So when an investor comes, or before an investor, you would definitely want to get a mentor. So if a mentor is coming, you would want to remunerate the mentor in some way, right? Either you would be paying him or her a particular consultancy fee or deferred fee, or you might end up giving, some portion of equity, let's say 1%, 2%. I've never seen mentors getting more than 5%. So that kind of thing. So that's where you structure the transaction. Of course, agreement is there as well, but how you structure the transaction? Are you going to give that 5% to the mentor right away? Are you going to give it pro rata? Pro rata means that you are giving 5% over a period of 2 years, so which means that he gets prorated on a monthly basis. Or are you going to put a particular cliff period, that okay, mentor has worked with you for 2 months and then mentor is leaving, and you feel that you shouldn't have parted away with equity, so you can put a particular cliff period of, let's say, 6 months or 8 months. That is the minimum term which mentor should serve, failing which he or she will not receive any equity in your venture. So that's how you structure the transactions. Similarly, when an investor comes in a startups, and I'm taking these examples because these examples are relevant to GCEC because of entrepreneurship, startups, and the culture. So when an investor comes, you first have to see at what stage the investor is coming. Is the investor coming at pre-idea stage, or idea stage, or MVP stage, or prototype stage, or go-to-market stage, or Series A stage, or bridge stage, whatever stage the investor is coming? Then you chalk out the terms, that whether you want to give them equity, whether you want to go for a debt investment, or whether you want to go for a convertible investment. Now here, these three are actually business decisions, but we as corporate, commercial, or investment lawyers, we advise clients that going by market trends or considering your future growth, you would probably be better off with a convertible note instead of equity. And then we advise them that okay, why you should not be going for equity, why you should be going for convertible note. If the client agrees, well and good. If the client doesn't agree, then of course we'll go with the equity route. At the end of the day, it's the client who wants it. And then we structure that thing as well. Even when it comes to equity, it's not as simple that investor is putting 1 CR in your venture and you are giving shares straight away. There would be discussions pertaining to valuation of your venture. There would be KPIs and milestones. Investor may want to put that 1 CR in tranches of 20 lakhs. How you structure that? That comes there. And then you structure the agreement accordingly, negotiate it, and then you get it executed. And your role does not end as lawyer. Your role does not end when agreement gets negotiated, because sometimes there are conditions subsequent there, that after the execution of agreement, you are supposed to do something, you are supposed to perform something. That something could be formalization of certain things. Let's say, for example, issuing the shares, so calling for a general meeting of shareholders or meeting of board of directors and all that stuff. So your role continues there. So transaction structuring was the second part. Now the third part is taxation strategies. Of course, that is something which is usually taken care of by the chartered accountants and ACCAs, whom I believe I think ACCA has got a very good tie-up with GCEC, so they usually take care of it. For instance, would it be prudent for an investor from the US to invest directly in an Indian startup? From that investor's angle, not from the startup's angle. Or would it be more prudent for that investor to first incorporate a Delaware entity, then through that Delaware entity, he incorporates another entity in the UK. From UK, he incorporates another entity in Netherlands. From Netherlands, Cyprus, and Cyprus to India. I mean, there are these kind of structures which are done, and we have done this kind of structuring to save taxes. I'm not saying to evade taxes or to avoid taxes, because otherwise, we will then be constrained to avail services of J to represent you before income tax tribunals. Tax evasion and tax avoidance are bad things. Don't do that. But tax optimum structures you can go for. So by taking this route, we actually reduce tax liability of that person from 39% to 17%, which is a huge amount, at least in our eyes. So that's third factor which we deal with. Fourth factor is strategies. Strategies in the sense, let's say one of my clients is an NBFC in India, and another of my client is in remittance business like Western Union, etc. So I'll put my commercial hats on, and then I'll try to see that, okay, can there be a collaboration between these two? Because if there is going to be a collaboration between these two, I'll of course be having two roles there. One of a lawyer, second of a deal maker or striker. So that's how you create opportunities. Then you advise them on joint ventures, joint collaboration, market entry tactics. Let's say a particular venture from GCEC wants to expand to Singapore. So how it should be expanding in Singapore? What all support would it need? Would it be prudent from legal as well as commercial perspective? So the role here is roughly around 40% legal and 60% on business side, which actually helps you because you think like that business person. These are the types of work which we normally do. Besides that, there are intellectual property rights, but we are trying to reduce our practice in there, so I wouldn't go into much details. But yes, when it comes to, let's say, mergers, acquisitions, etc., you always want to structure the deals in a way that your client gets the maximum benefit out of it, because if your client is getting the maximum benefit, you will also end up getting an upside on your fee. Let's say, for example, the startup investment, I'll come back to it again. So valuation is always a burning issue between investors and the startups. So what you do is, how do you justify valuation? Of course, discounted cash flow method and all that stuff. But from legal perspective, what you can contribute there is, you can say that, okay, they are going to file a provisional patent application. It's very easy to get a provisional patent. It's very difficult to get a final patent. But you get a provisional patent, and on basis of that, you can claim that, okay, my valuation is not $1 million. My valuation is actually $2.5 million. I've applied for a provisional patent. I've received the provisional patent. So I'm adding another revenue stream of license income or royalty to it. So that's where, you have blended law with business. So you structure things in that kind of a way. These are the majority of the tasks and work which we do. I mean, we do some bit of arbitration as well, but arbitration is more or less similar to litigation, which Jay has already covered. So I wouldn't want to take much time of the participants. This is what we do, and my suggestion is only one thing. Firstly, always have confidence in yourself. As Jay had rightly pointed out, everyone has a particular skill set. You don't need to be outgoing, you don't need to be only extrovert. Introverts can be very good lawyers as well. So, legal field is a field where there are all kind of possible psychological personality traits. You can find an introvert, you can find an extrovert, you can find a chirpy fellow, you can find a grumpy fellow, all that kind of things you can find, and everyone is doing good because what they do is they do their SWOT analysis. They stick to their core strength. Either you eliminate your weaknesses or you increase your strengths, or you do both depending upon what you want to do. So you focus on that. focus your key areas. I mean, get experience or exposure of everything. Do litigation as well. You should be getting an experience of litigation, because see, a doctor is not a doctor until and unless he has experience of treating patients. If you are conducting only research, then you are not that kind of doctor, and even that thing would not give you much satisfaction. So private practice is very, very essential. Experience litigation, experience corporate, then you chalk out your core strengths. See what you can do, and experience them not just from the work angle, also experience from a lifestyle angle. That okay, how do you want your daily work day to look like? Do you want your daily day work to look like a litigation lawyer? What is the lifestyle of a litigation lawyer? Do you want your daily work day to look like a corporate lawyer? If yes, then how does lifestyle or a normal working day of a corporate lawyer looks like? These things, based upon those things, you match your personality traits as well. Then you match your work preferences, your core areas of strength, and you will make a very well informed and very amazing decision. And if you are working on your strength, then irrespective whether that particular field of law being in demand or not, whether it be direct taxation, indirect taxation, GST, sales tax, or intellectual property rights, company law, sale of goods act, etc., whatever that is, you will always be in demand because you will be having core strength over that particular stream.
Sorry, sir. Sorry to interrupt, but thank you so much, Sahil sir, for giving your insights on your experience. And I could surely say that my perspective regarding law as a career has already been changed. As you have said that there could be a blend of entrepreneur plus law as a career. There could be a blend of finance plus law as a career, and I could see a good opportunities down there too. Thank you so much, both the speakers, and I would request all the attendees, all the from the audience, to come up with the questions that you want to ask from our experts right now. So you could raise your hands and ask your questions, and they'll be giving you the best answers to you. Till our audience are getting ready to ask the questions, I would ask a few questions from my side. Jay sir, as you said that there are two ways to pursue law. A 3-year course and a 5-year extensive course. So, can you just give a brief of the the course structure and also about the fees, like is it very costly to pursue it, and how should a student should plan after a 12th into this?
Yeah, hi Sana. So I've got your question. So the answer to this question would require at least 2 to 3 minutes of explanation. So is that fine?
Yeah, sure sir, sure.
So basically, as I pointed out at the beginning of my session, there are two types of courses that we have. One is the 5 years course, the other is the 3 years course. Now, the 5 years course is a very well structured program that includes your basic graduation as well as a law course degree. So it's an integrated course. So different law schools offer different kind of courses. Our law school, for example, Government Law College Mumbai, it offered a BLS LLB program, so which was bachelor's in legal sciences, and that bachelor's in legal sciences program was a 3 year course. So basically, obviously, I mean, there are students who decide to quit the degree before and immediately after their bachelor's is done. But so bachelor's in legal sciences would cover subjects such as history, political science, logic, geography, business studies, etc., etc. So just to gear you up for the final 2 years that have subjects relating to law. So the 5 years course is obviously the most expensive, the most intense course, wherein once you enter, you pass out or you graduate with your law degree. And those 5 years, you're exposed to a lot of activities in the form of moot court activities. When you write essays, you get opportunities to travel and do international moot courts. So if you ask me what a moot court is, moot courts are demo courts wherein there is a fictional problem, and you're supposed to argue that problem on both sides and there's a memorial that you need to submit it. And so there'll be seniors from your law school, or the illustrious alumni, or esteemed jurists will be coming and judging you, just to gear you up and give you a glimpse as to what the actual courts of law are all about. So moot courts is again an essential exercise to understand and see whether your heart and soul lie in as a in courts of law as a career, which is litigation. So moot court is something that every person needs to do once you're in law school, to decide whether litigation is the career for you or not. So a 5 years program will give you a wonderful experience of those 5 years of grueling sport activities, of moot courts, of essay writing, academics. Academics again are very important, and law is one field wherein you have a number of subjects. Now you just don't have a constitutional law or an environmental law. And now, as we all know, that there is goods and services tax. The environmental law has changed. Law is something that has evolved, and in the last few years it has evolved drastically and tremendously. So those 5 years give you a wonderful exposure of more or less each and everything. So it's like a platter, the 5 years course. So it's like a lunch buffet wherein you are given to choose whatever you wished and whatever you like. And subsequent to that, once you're done with those 5 years of law school, you can identify what you're passionate about and then make a career out of it, be it a corporate law, or be it a litigating law, etc., etc. Now, 3 years is something that people generally do after they graduate. So there are people who have probably, who are keen on pursuing philosophy, and they would do a BA in philosophy, and subsequent to that, they do a 3 years course. So 3 years course are far more flexible. Once you enter a 3 year program, you're exposed only to law subjects. So you don't have those basic, you don't basically lead a campus life. You're only leading a law graduate life. You're exposed to only activities that are related to, restricted to, and revolving around the field of law. So that is where those 5 years, once you're exposed to so many things, you evolve as an individual, only to build a better understanding in the field of law. Now, as far as expenses are concerned, see, we all know that law schools are expensive, especially the ones that are well equipped, that have a good library. Now, tomorrow, if your son or daughter applies to, say, a master's program at Harvard Law School and he gets through it, so will you say no to him because the expenses are high, or will you give him an opportunity, even through a loan that you take from a bank, that he gets the best possible opportunity to get the best possible master's program? Because Harvard Law School is very prestigious when it comes to master's program and other programs, especially in the field of law. So as far as expenses part is concerned, once you graduate and once you've studied really very hard for those 5 years, you can very well recover the amount that you spend in tuition fees. Even MBA programs are expensive. Every program that you see, read, or pursue later on will be expensive at some point. But you need to understand that where your heart is, when your soul is, when what you're passionate about, and you should give it a chance. So if you are looking at a 5 years course, which is only and only about law as a stream and law as a field and law as a profession, then you need to start preparing immediately in class 12th. And even before that, if that is possible, you're in class 11th, and that's the best time, and you get all the time in the world to take out those 2-3 hours a day, that you can concentrate on English, that you can concentrate on logical reasoning and analytical reasoning, mathematics, because that is how the build up takes place. And so the more problems and test papers you're exposed to in your class 12th, the better equipped you will be once you're writing the CLAT entrance examination. Because the similar problem that I faced was that I knew that I want to pursue law, but then I never studied mathematics. I only did logical reasoning, I only did general knowledge, and I only concentrated on English. So that is where I lagged. So it's very important to structure your studies in such a way. So when you're sure that you want to pursue the 5 years course, you need to start off immediately, preferably in class 11th. If not, then surely in class 12th, because the earlier to do it, the better it will be, because every year the competition is increasing, and it's increasing by leaps and bounds. Number two, expenses part will definitely be taken care of, because subsequent, if you're good in the field you're in, and that is where your heart is, and that is what you're passionate about, you'll recover it either by when you'll get recruited by a good prestigious law firm, or where you join a good seniors chamber where you get a lot of opportunities to appear, argue matters. So 3 years program is something that people can do if they keep law as an option, but they're not 100% sure and keen on pursuing it immediately after graduation. So I am absolutely endorsing the view that it's absolutely fine to pursue a 3 years law course, because there are so many fields now, there are so many options that have opened up, The country has opened up to so many different fields. Now, journalism that used to be in the 90s is not the journalism that is today. So there are different fields that have evolved in different ways. So this is something that you can do at any given point of time. But if when you talk about the 5 years course, you do it immediately after your 12th. So that is how you need to prepare yourself for that.
Thank you so much, sir, for answering this. And now I'll be taking the questions from the audience. I guess Sanskriti can should be asking the question. She can unmute yourself, and I ask Shubham to look after it. Shubham, please unmute her and give her a chance to ask.
Good afternoon, sir. I would
Hi.
like to ask, I'm in 10th class right now. I'll be moving in 11th grade soon. And I would like to ask that which subjects should I take within humanities as a stream? Like, I'm sure about history and political science, but I'm not sure about the other subjects. And I am sure that I have to do CLAT after 12th standard. So, what subjects can help me in 11th and 12th?
So is the question directed to Mr. Sahil or to me? If you can.
So if you can answer, then yeah, please do.
All right. As far as I could understand, you're in class 10th, right? And you were opting for humanities. So what was the next part to your question?
So I'm sure about taking history and political science, but we have to take four subjects, and
Okay.
I'm not sure about the rest too. So what subject should I take in 11th and 12th, which can help me in CLAT examination?
See, the pattern that you follow when it comes to CLAT preparation will be totally and completely different to what you will be studying. What When I said humanities, what I meant was it gives you a good introduction, it gives you a good solid platform wherein you study political science and history. You should obviously go for a subject that is easy to clear, because if you have decided to sit for an entrance, it's always better and preferable to opt a subject which is easier to clear, and there is internal marking involved, so that even your school would help you, assist you in getting good grades, so that you don't have to prepare yourself really very hard. So informatics practice is something that I will never recommend. I had opted for informatics practice, which is a computer field, in my class 12th, and I didn't score well. One, two, it I had invested a lot of time, because because one, I'm not good at computer programming. Two, I love playing computer games, because that is where my passion is. So I have never ever been into computer programming or any kind of visual or virtual base, wherein you're supposed to answer questions and make or draft problems relating to that. So informatics practice something that you should definitely not opt for. It will one, not count. Two, it will be of no help later in your career if you decide to pursue law. Three, you will end up wasting a lot of time in that. If physical education is a subject that you will be offered, then why not go for it? Go for subjects that are easier to clear, and that are not time consuming, so that your focus can be on the CLAT preparation and other law school preparation, because now times have changed. There is a lot of competition that is involved, and there are a lot of people who, if are not clearing entrance exam papers, you'll see them outside CLAT centers and writing the CLAT examination. So you need to be very careful. You need to strategize your academic program in such a way that you are able to give a lot of precious time of yours to CLAT prep and entrance exam preparation. So opt for subjects that are easier to clear. That would be my advice to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Sanskriti, for asking your question. Next, I would ask Sanchit to ask your question.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, sir. Am I audible? Uh, yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yes, yes. Yes, ma'am. So actually, the thing is, I'm in class 10th right now, and I'm opting to, choose law as my career after class 12th. So as far as I know, because my sister is in law school right now, so I got to know some information from her that 5-year law course, as you mentioned, provides basically two courses, BBA LLB and BA LLB, if I'm not mistaken. Am I correct, sir? Uh,
No,
sir?
that is two different courses.
Yeah, so because we have to opt for the subjects in class 11th. So why I'm asking you this, because uh, if I'll because I have a certain interest in commerce. So definitely after 12th, I'll be choosing BBA LLB honors instead of BA LLB, right, sir? If
But that is
right, sir.
when you get admission in a law school. That is too early for you to decide. You should first concentrate on class 11th and 12th.
Okay, but so what I'm trying to say here is, what should I opt here? Like commerce stream or humanities stream, which is which is easy for law to understand.
Please try and understand one thing. Opting for humanities or opting for commerce or opting for sciences is a personal choice. So you need to understand that one, is your school giving you this opportunity to opt for any of these fields? Because there are many schools in Jaipur that only allow you give you an option to choose between, let's say, science and commerce. So it's a completely personal choice. It doesn't matter. You see, obviously, it gives you a good solid foundation, because once you opt for humanities, you get a lot of free time to study the field. You get a lot of free time to to sit down and prepare for your competition and competitive examinations. So personally, it did benefit me a lot opting for humanities, because I passed out of Maharaja Savai Mansingh Vidyalay, 2008 batch, and when 11th I had opted for humanities, I got a lot of free time. So in that free time, I made sure that I would be the concentration would be in preparation for CLAT examination and other law entrances. So it's always better that, because see, ultimately you need to prepare yourself and get up for these law entrances. So if you opt for humanities, you will obviously get a lot of free time to do it. And also, having said that, I think even if you opt for commerce, it's perfectly fine, because most of my batchmates had a commerce background, and it will help you in the sense that as a commercial lawyer, probably later on in your life, you can probably so there are people who opt for taxation as well. So it does help. Every field in law is interconnected and somewhere connected to other fields. So instead of isolating one field and saying that fine, I'll be a human rights lawyer, or I want to opt for political science because political science is again a type of a legal science and it will help me on in my legal profession. It's probably too early in your career to do that. So I would suggest that if you want to opt for political science, read about it, do a lot of internet searches. If you love reading articles, then I think that is probably the field for you. But if you have inclination towards commerce, if you really like business studies, you get a good hang of it. Try and understand what these subjects are about, and it's always better to read and then take a call than to strictly go by somebody else's advice and sticking to it. Because see, my experiences uh, are based on the decisions that I've taken. Probably if you opt for commerce, yeah, you'll be really fond of it. So understand the field, try reading about it, and then take a call. But humanities, in toto, does help, because you get a lot of free time and you can utilize that free time in and you take out that time to prepare for a law entrance examination.
So
Uh,
I can make a summary out of this, that students can choose any of the field while they're opting in class 11th. They can go and even if they are taking science, they can go for law after 12th. It's totally okay. Uh, and I guess JSR is suggesting for humanities is just because you will get a more free time. It's very easy to clear all those humanity subjects, and when you get a more time, you can actually prepare for the competitive exams, the clearance tests that you are planning to do after 12th. So Sanchit, if you are looking for commerce, you can of course go for it. And it's on you, like if you want to start preparing from class 11th, then you can go for humanities. It will give you more time. If you want to go for commerce also, you can go, then you can have a blend of just like Sahil sir said, a blend of business and law, and some kind of commercial law, you can go for that too. So it's on you, like how you want to go for it.
Thank you, sir and ma'am. And secondly, ma'am, one more small question I have. So basically, I'd like to know after 12th, what are the exams available for me to, to pursue for NLUs? Because as far as I know, there's a separate exam for NLU Delhi, AILET, I guess, right, sir? So what are the different examinations I can give after 12th? So CLAT, AILET, and so I'm not sure about that. Could you please tell?
So you have a lot of entrances these days. You have the Maharashtra Law Entrance Examination. So GLC is no more conducting its own examination. So we have the Maharashtra Law Entrance, and then you have an NLU in Bombay as well, and then you have the NLU Delhi that conducts its own examination. You have the Indraprasth University, wherein you have Amity Law Schools and a number of other prestigious law schools. You have ILS Pune. You have Symbiosis that has its own entrance. Then you have these national law schools wherein there's a consortium called CLAT that conducts the common entrance examination for all these top national law schools. So, well, obviously, when you Google it, you will find everything on the internet. So these are the entrances. So, right at the moment, if you're in class 12, then I think you should concentrate and you should stick to what your passion is. If you enjoy reading humanities, then obviously you can opt for it. But when you talk about entrances, I think more or less the material that you will get to clear a particular examination will more or less be the same, because if you're preparing for CLAT, then automatically you will be getting up and preparing for other law school entrances exam. So it's very important to, one, to stick to your academics and concentrate on your school level examination, which is the board exam, and two, these entrance examinations. So if you associate yourself and if you join a good mentor, you know I think more or less the same. It doesn't matter which entrance you're preparing for, as long as you're doing it every single day. So every day you'll have to take out time and study and work really very hard on it. You just can't there is always that time period and window that you get immediately after your board examinations, that 1 month where you get to decide which competitive exam you will sit for, which examination will you write, or which college you will join. So you can't leave everything in that 1 month's time. You need to strategize it in such a way that uh, a lot of time is invested in that.
Yeah, so thank you, sir. Thank you so much for taking up the questions and answering to them. Thank you, Sanchit, for asking your questions. And I guess there are a few more questions, but we are running out of time. We have actually exceeded the limit a lot of the time. So thank you so much, all the students who have joined us in this session. And if you still have questions, we have our community where all the experts would be available, and you can just post your questions, post your queries, and we'll get them answered by our expert panels. And do visit the Commerce Clave the website, and give a shot, and all the best for your career ahead. And thank you so much, Jay sir, Sahil sir, for joining us in today, and giving us a good insight about law. And thank you so much all for being here.
Thank you, Sanya. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Sani. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all.